Eala earns it the hard way from love 3 down first set. Lefty shape, stubborn defense, and smart claycraft to outplay the 31st seed, Wang Xinyu, under the statues. 6-4, 6-3 in an hour and 20 seconds.
Okay, something happened in Rome today that you need to stop and actually pay attention to. A 20-year-old from the Philippines just walked into one of the most historic tennis arenas on the planet and took apart a top 35 ranked player completely, so efficiently that by the end of it, you almost felt sorry for the person on the other side of the net. Almost. The final score was 6-4, 6-3, straight sets, 7 breaks of serve, 0 double faults. And if those numbers don't immediately tell you a story, then stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why the entire WTA is quietly panicking right now. Her name is Alex, and she is something genuinely different. The Foro Italico is not just a tennis venue. Anyone who's ever stood inside it knows that. There's something about the place that gets under your skin. The red clay stretching out beneath these enormous neoclassical statues that look like they've been watching over the sport for centuries. The Italian crowd is loud and opinionated, and completely unforgiving. The Roman winds swirl unpredictably. The clay itself is heavy and slow, and it has a way of exposing every single weakness a player has been hiding all season. There is genuinely nowhere to run in that stadium. No shortcut, no way to just blast your way through points and go home happy. You either belong on that surface, or the surface spits you out. Today, it became very clear which category Alex belongs to. Now, to really understand what happened, you have to go back a few months. Earlier this year in Auckland, these two players met in the semifinals of the ASB Classic. Wang Xinyu, physically imposing, flat ball striking, absolutely relentless, from the baseline, came out on top in a 3-set match that went right to the wire. It was the kind of loss that lingers. The kind where you lie awake at night running through every single point in your head, wondering what you could have done differently, wondering whether you were simply outgunned. Wang came into Rome sitting at 31st in the world. She had a bye in the first round, so she was fresh, rested, and by every single analyst's assessment, she was the favorite to win this match comfortably. The narrative was already written before the first ball was struck. Wang was going to use that physical edge, those heavy, flat ground strokes, push Alex around the baseline and close it out in 2 sets. Clean, clinical, comfortable. Except nobody told Alex. And nobody, apparently, reminded the analysts that Alex is a product of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. That she has been training on clay since she was 13 years old. That she packed her bags as a child, left her family in the Philippines, flew to Spain, and gave up everything resembling a normal childhood to spend her formative years grinding on red dirt under the Spanish sun. Clay is not just a surface she plays on. It is the surface she was built for. From the very first game, something felt off for Wang. Alex was not sitting back and waiting for the match to develop. She was attacking the return. Stepping inside the baseline, taking the ball absurdly early, and driving it right back at Wang's feet before Wang even had time to set up and swing through the shot. It's a suffocating tactic, and it's brutally effective on clay, because the surface already slows the ball down enough to give Alex that extra fraction of a second she needs to be aggressive. And aggressive she was. Across the entire match, Alex created 11 breakpoint opportunities. Now, creating chances is one thing. Every decent player can do that occasionally. But converting those chances, especially against a top 35 player, who is fighting for her tournament life, that is where the real test lives. Alex converted 7 of them. 7. In a 2-set match, breaking your opponent's serve 7 times doesn't just mean you won. It means you systematically dismantled the other person's entire game plan and then watched it fall apart in front of you. What made it even more remarkable was the specific way it happened. Wang was landing 73% of her first serves, which is genuinely a strong number on the professional tour. But she was only winning 36% of those first serve points. Let that sink in for a second. Your primary weapon, the shot you practice more than almost anything else, the shot you're supposed to dominate with when it lands, and you're winning barely more than 1/3 of those points. That is not a bad day. That is a tactical obliteration. Alex was reading the serve early, absorbing the pace and sending heavy topspin replies deep into the corners, forcing Wang into defensive positions before the rally had barely begun. Wang started pressing, started going for too much. And the errors started piling up. And then there's the other side of the equation, Alex's own serve. 0 double faults. In 2 sets of tennis, on a big clay court in Rome, against a player who beat her earlier in the year, with the crowd buzzing and the pressure absolutely immense, she did not give Wang a single free point from a double fault. Not one. She held her first serve percentage at 76%, and when she did miss the first serve, her left-handed kick second serve bit into the clay and jumped high to Wang's weaker side. Here's the number that genuinely stopped me when I first saw it. Alex won 62% of her second serve points. Think about that. The moment in a service game when a player is supposed to be most vulnerable, when the returner is supposed to pounce. Alex was winning nearly 2 out of every 3 of those points. She had essentially found a way to make her moment of vulnerability her moment of control. The first set was messy, scrappy, the kind of set that swings back and forth like a pendulum. Wang actually converted 4 of her 5 breakpoint opportunities in the entire match, which in almost any other game would be more than enough to win comfortably. But every single time Wang broke, Alex broke straight back. Immediately. Without hesitation. Without panic. She refused to let Wang hold the momentum for more than a single game. She used her forehand, heavy and high and relentless, in the classic Nadal tradition, dragging Wang out wide, opening the court up, and then whipping a down-the-line winner through the gap. She won that first set 6-4 in a match that felt far more dramatic than the scoreline suggests, and then something shifted. You could see it in Wang's body. As they changed ends, her shoulders dropped slightly. Her walk between points got heavier. The confidence that had carried her to Rome, that had made every analyst back her so confidently before this match, it was draining away in real time. The second set was a completely different story. Alex went on a 4-game run that essentially ended the contest as a competitive match. She won 6 consecutive points at her peak, operating with a rhythm and precision that felt almost mechanical. Wang stopped chasing drop shots, started reaching for balls instead of moving her feet. The physical gap between the two players, which should have favored Wang on paper, had completely reversed. Alex, who had spent years training in the punishing heat of Mallorca, looked like she could play 3 more sets without breaking stride. She was bouncing on her toes between points. Her eyes were sharp and focused. Wang was fading and Alex was only getting stronger. The match ended on a point that somehow perfectly captured everything that had happened over the previous 90 minutes. Alex served out wide, pulled Wang out of position. Wang managed to dig out a weak defensive slice that floated back to the center of the court, and Alex stepped in, planted her feet into the Roman clay, and hit an inside-out forehand. Winner that Wang never even moved for. Game, set, match, 6-4, 6-3. Alex raised a fist, nodded to her coach, and that was it. No screaming, no tears, just the quiet, controlled satisfaction of someone who came in with a plan and executed every single part of it. But here's the thing about Alex that goes so far beyond the statistics and the tactics and the beautiful tennis. At 13 years old, she made a decision that most adults would find terrifying. She left the Philippines, left her family, left everything familiar, and moved to Spain to chase something most people in her country had never even attempted. Tennis was not the national sport back home. It was basketball. It was boxing. Those were the languages her country spoke in terms of sport and pride and identity. But she picked up a racket, developed into something extraordinary, and gradually became something her nation had no blueprint for. She became a legitimate, dangerous, top-tier professional tennis player. And every time she steps onto a court now, she is carrying something heavier than a tennis bag. She is carrying the attention and the hope and the pure, fierce pride of over 100 million people who didn't grow up watching this sport, but who tune in now because one of their own is out there competing at the highest level and winning. When she gives post-match interviews, she switches into Tagalog to speak directly to her supporters back home. It's not a gimmick, it's genuine. She knows exactly who she's playing for, and that awareness doesn't weigh her down. If anything, it seems to make her more focused, more driven, more willing to embrace the pressure that breaks other players. There's something deeply significant about what's happening here at a broader level, too. Southeast Asian players have historically faced enormous structural disadvantages trying to compete on the professional tennis circuit. The travel costs are brutal. The access to elite coaching is limited. The path from talent to professional viability is longer and more uncertain than it is for players from Europe or the United States. For Alex to be not just competing, but genuinely thriving and causing Ari